Welcome back to day 2 of the International Peer Conference for Americas, Europe, and Africa. I hope you enjoyed the short break and hopefully took the opportunity to visit the Expo Gallery. For those of you just joining track 2, my name is Tina Moyer. I'm Senior Director of Industry and Academic Partnerships, and I will be the moderator for track 2 for the remainder of the day. We're going to start this session with streamlining the funding process, a case study from the University of Northampton. And throughout the discussion, you can submit questions to the speakers by using the live QA button, either located at the very bottom of your screen or up on the right. And hopefully, time permitting, we will have some time to do some cover Q&A at the end of the presentation. So to kick this off, I'd like to introduce you to our session speakers today. We have Paul Bramble, who's the Research Innovation Funding Service Manager, Research Impact Innovation Department at the University of Northampton. Boy, that's a long title, Paul. And then we have Manik Sethi, who's Senior Manager of Portfolio Marketing for Elsevier. I'll turn it over to Manik and Paul.
Tina, I'll get on to why I've got a very long title at my university a bit later. Today in my part of the presentation, I'm going to briefly, for those who are not familiar with the UK institutional landscape, talk about that, my university, University of Northampton, and how the university we've used funding institutional and the pure award management module to streamline the funding processes. The UK institutional landscape, I work like many other people in the research arena in a demanding and complex environment that competes for external funding. To give you an idea, in 2017-18, £6.2 billion of research grants and contracts were managed across 165 UK higher education institutions. My research office, like all the others across the UK, have and had and still have many external and internal challenges. Externally, you might be familiar with some of them down there, from Brexit to COVID, and recently the Research Excellence Exercise, REF. Internally, we've seen an increase in resource pressures, some of which is from the pandemic. It's increased expectations from obviously university management within universities, so this has made this internally, it's made it a bit more challenging, and we are looking at systems and processes to make the resources that we use in the university a lot more streamlined in the application for the limited resources we have. I would like to add, there's no research office structure. It's the same in the university. It can depend on how research active you are as an institution. At the University of Northampton, I'd like to give you a bit more context about us as a university. We have a long history. Interesting fact, we were a third university after Oxford and Cambridge, but we're just dissolved in by the King in 1265 to not establish the banning of the establishment of the University of Northampton. This was only removed and repealed in 2005 after the university was given full university status with research degree awarding powers. And within that short period of time, from 2005 to 2018, we moved out to our old existing campuses into a brand new 330 million campus in 2018. And you will see part of that on the presentation now. Northampton is currently is a teaching intensive university. It has an ambitious research plan, not just around the next REF, but with a wider ambition to align all research to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Staff-wise, we have around 1,600 plus staff, of which 160 are on teaching and research contracts. At the University of Northampton, there are two main research service areas within the structure. One is the research support based in the library and learning services. This consists of 3 people. Their roles range from open access to data management to pure outputs. Outputs include data sets and journal papers. And then there's my team of 4 people, research, innovation, funding support, RIS for short. We deal with the majority of the whole research life cycle in terms of support for applications to awarded projects. We also deal with IP contracts and research systems in terms of funding, institutional and the pure award management module. So how was funding institutional supported and changed the research environment? The heading says supported. I think it's still supporting the change in the research environment at our university. I'll get on a bit more about that later. For the university to grow its research, to make a positive difference and create social value, we needed tools to aid us in our endeavours. Part of the university research plan is having these necessary tools and systems to maximise our potential reach for our research. We need to obviously grow our capabilities, give staff confidence to search for calls, and to become more aware of the funding landscape, the criteria that accompanies it. In December 2019, the University of Northampton team opted for Elsevier's funding institutional, which came available to staff in early 2020. The change, again, I'd like to note we are early in the change of using from our old system for the funding institutional. However, I am starting to see changes in bringing together staff in cross-disciplinary activity. And there's been a sense of greater efficiency between academics and the research office. We've been using in the funding institutional the awarded grants also to see what has been previously won, what organisation has won it, and equally the collaborators that have been involved. This has helped us to gain insight and ability to identify potential future collaborators. So streamlining the workflow. I mean, whilst funding institutional was is a really good system for finding opportunities and the awards that have been given to organisations. What drew us to it was the connection of the workflow between funding institutional and the awards management module in Pure. This went live in July 2020. During the setup period, we've got a lot of things happening, as you could probably imagine. We've got, in terms of the going forward and looking at the award management module itself, we set up an internal workflow process within the module. It mirrored a current the old process, which we've tried to streamline a little bit better in terms of the who and when people should receive the notifications for approval. So our structure, we talk about the academic to the accountant to the dean of the faculty of research. We also set up a process where if their applications need justification, i.e. more around the financial side of it, there's a step to justify, and then it goes towards to another process to director of finance at our university. The benefits as a research office of having a pure award management module is we saw faster application processes. As I indicated earlier, the pure, everyone has access to university, to funding institutional has access to pure. You have a profile on funding institutional, and the two systems can be linked. This is great for when you find a call on the system, because this can be pre-populated, metadata can be drawn from funding institutional into the pure award management module application, and quite a lot of information is pre-populated from the amount of the call to the funder, etc., and that which saves a lot of time, which helps us and led us to improved researcher support. So we didn't have to chase academics for more details about the call. It was already there. We focused on supporting their application from day one because it was there in the system, in the pure award management module. So we can see what the academic is working on, and we can engage them at a greater speed. There is also greater data accuracy. The research team is controlled of all the data inputs, and we can look at and get reports in the very different areas of the award management module. For example, the amount of bids that have been put forward, the amount of income, and we can look at the awarded amounts as well. But that does depend on how you set up the awards management module to assist you in the data accuracy. It's also enabled to have more effective tracking and management of grant awards. We store, obviously all the information now is stored on Pure in terms of that process. We can add, once they've been awarded, we can add notes and comments, milestones. It has simplified the compliance of internal external audit requirements. Part of the work I've been working on is matching some of the criteria or some of the language in terms of the UK reporting to what we have on the award management module in terms of the applications. And additionally, what is really useful having the entire Pure system is the papers, data sets, anything that's output related in sense of the Pure system can be linked to the project via the awards management module. So it's seamless basically. So you can start profiling all your work straight away between your application, your project and your outputs. Just final slide that I want. Keys to increasing grant success rates. I think there is no golden bullet, so to speak, in terms of getting an answer to that statement there. But in terms of how it worked at our university, it goes back to my phrase of supporting change. I mean, there's been a lot of hard work between staff, that's the research office, the academic researchers and the Elsevier support team in putting this up and putting this together. Timing, I mean, much like a funding call, there's no great time to start an application. There's no great time to implement and change the systems. We did it probably at the best time ever when the pandemic occurred. So as I said, we got these systems on board late 2019. We were up and running by July 2020. So it did mean we had to work very closely internally and externally. At that point, I only had 2 members of the team for various reasons. That was just the case, but we did have an excellent relationship with other support teams within the university. In particular, we had a member of the research service support that had knowledge of Pure and the background workings of it, who assisted in the application and development of the workflow process, for example. And just to let you know, he's now a member of my team, and because of that knowledge, I wanted to keep and to cascade through our research office, because I think as everybody is aware, having one person having being one central point of knowledge is not a good thing. What we had to ensure is, as a central research office, that we have wider knowledge of both systems, both tools, funding institutional Pure award management, and particular how we can set up and modify and adapt the Pure award management module. Just quickly, we delivered a lot of staff training to academics and still delivering staff training. And we've done it virtually because of the pandemic, but that worked really well. And we found that we're going to continue doing this, even though colleagues are back in the office, because it's an online tool delivered virtually. You can access it anywhere in the world. I'm working at home at the moment. You could be in a cafe, etc. You can access training in the system anywhere, as long as you have a secure obviously internet connection, might I add. And the other benefits for me is being a part of, I suppose, I'll say Elsevier's, but Pure and funding institutions development teams. I've become quite familiar with some of the updates, and I've been trialing those with colleagues at the project team around that. And equally, Pure, it gives you access to a global community of everyone who's involved, as you know, in these projects, Pure on Funding Institutional. Finally, just want to finish off just to say thank you for listening. I'll pass you over to my colleague who will do the second part of this presentation.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everyone. I'm Manik, Sethi, and I work with Elsevier as Senior Manager for Portfolio Marketing for Pure, Data Monitor, and Funding Institutional. And over the next few slides, I'll just share some information about Funding Institutional. And if you have more questions, how you can get those answers. Next slide, please. So integrating Funding Institutional to Pure and Pure Award Management module allows researchers to manage their pre- and post-award funding workflows. This integration helps researchers seamlessly to import funding opportunities and apply to the most winnable ones in the pre-award stage, to set up projects and manage them until closure through the Pure Award Management module. Next slide, please. Funding Institutional API, which comes free with the Funding Institutional subscription, gives direct access to shareable data available in real time. It integrates easily with other RIMS or CRIS systems you may have in the university. Next slide, please. Funding institutional coverage includes more than 5,000 funders from more than 80 countries, and these include governments, foundations, associations, corporations, and we are adding them more and more. Next slide. Should I apply feature creates a bridge between, this is one of our latest enhancements we have done to Funding Institutional. Should I apply feature creates a bridge between funding opportunities and granted awards, and it displays funding insights in the context of funding discovery. It automatically helps you to discover the most viable opportunities with no additional effort and time, and only in one click. Next slide, please. When you select your institution as part of Should I Apply, it shares the proportion of awards received by your institutions compared to the overall number of awards sponsored by the funder over the last 5 years. This feature drives data-informed decisions based on historical funding data and helps researchers and institutions to apply for the most winnable funding opportunities. If you are wondering how you can integrate Pure with Funding Institutional, I invite you to the Expo Gallery, and my colleagues there will be happy to answer any question you may have. This was a very brief introduction of Funding Institutional, but if you have any questions, you may ask over the chat, or like I said, we'll be happy to answer you over the Expo Gallery. Thank you.
All right, we have some time for some questions. Paul, Manik, thank you so much. Our first question is, Paul, do you select funding opportunities for academics and push them to awards management, or do you encourage academics to log into Funding Institutional and search for it?
We do both, actually. It depends on the academic and the knowledge they have of Funding Institutional. It depends on the experience and where they are. If they're an early career researcher, we tend to push opportunities to them. If they're more experienced researcher, they tend to use the system more and engage it that way and pull it through to their profiles. But that doesn't say we don't support our senior staff. If we see a multidisciplinary grant call, for example, on Funding Institutional, we do email it across to colleagues.
Okay. We have another question. Where are project-related documents? Where are project-related documents like a grant agreement stored, in Pure or in the local servers? Paul, I'm assuming that's addressed to you.
On Pure, basically. I think that's part of the other reason why we got the system, because we wanted a place. Previously, documents were stored either centrally or locally on schools stroke faculties. As you appreciate, our institution's gone through, in the last 10 years, we've gone from 6 schools to 4 faculties, now down to 3 faculties. And you can see that data, wherever it lies, will get transferred around. So having Pure now as a central repository of all that information, it means if we ever have an audit, we know where to go. We go into the award module and we go into the award and it's all there.
Okay.
But just to add, we do have systems and processes and checkpoints to enable that to happen.
All right. Another question, can we search and filter for just UK funding opportunities? Manik is...
Yes, I can answer that. Yes, so just not from you can search it through the funders region and the opportunity, as well as the applicant's country of origin or citizenship or affiliation. So there are many filters available on funding institution where you can search through the relevant opportunities which are maybe applicable to you.
Okay. Here's another question for Paul. Paul, what do you mean when you say better showcasing a results for the AMA, the award management module? What do you mean by that?
Right, so there's 2 things we can do here. Better showcasing results. We can manage the data behind the scenes of the income, the bidding, the grants, success rates, etc., and download it and create external reports for senior management, etc., if we need to at various committees. And what we're working on at the moment is using the reporting module within award management, or the reporting area within the award management module, to tailor for various people and various functions within the university. For example, we have deputy deans and research leads that want specific data, and we can custom that data and results to what they are what they would like to see in terms of their reporting and their obviously feedback in terms of their faculties.
Okay. University of Northumbria uses funding institutional Pure in the award management module. How would you measure these integrated systems, impact or not, on researchers or PIs, Paul?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's have to read that again.
Okay, so the University of Northumbria obviously uses funding institutional with Pure and the award management module. How would you measure these integrated systems impact on researchers or PIs, or not? Is there any impact?
In terms of impact, is quite a broad word. In terms of, so I'm not trying to get out of this, but it's quite broad. So for me, there's noticeable difference in engagement. People using funding institutional to pull it through. There is less, I would say, people coming to us, more people using a tool that then we are noticing it on the award management module. So there's less, we have noticed that as a less of impact on us as a team. Impact looking at, I suppose, what we do every year is look at the amount of applications that have been submitted and then applications that have been won. So we've been looking at how that has been increased through the use of these tools and systems. Obviously, at the moment, it's a measure that's from funding to our old processes. So we are currently looking at how do we develop that further and use some more internal metrics to gauge impact and integration.
Okay. And I'm just curious from my own perspective is, before your previous setup with the Pure funding and AM, what other sources did you find funding from? You know, so what services did you use before?
We used a grant finder service prior to this, and we also used manual searches as well. Partly that, and that's partly because of, I would say, the prior system that we're using. I and colleagues didn't find it as interactive or engaging. And one of the beauties of funding institutional, and I've said that a lot to the people at Elsevier and the funding institutional the product team, is the look and design and the feel of it, and how you go around and navigate. It's very clean and it's understandable and it's logical. Okay.
One more quick question, because we're running out of time. Do you have to transfer data from previous systems to the award management module? And if so, how much difficulty did you encounter?
Yes, we did have to transfer it. How much difficulty we encountered? a little bit, because obviously two systems don't naturally speak to one another. Hence why I said you need someone familiar with the workings of Pure background, so a person within the university team to work on it, and that relationship with the Elsevier side when you're setting up the product to understand how that data can be transferred and uploaded and manipulated for Pure.
Okay. Thank you. We've run out of time, unfortunately, and so we've reached the end of the session. And I'd like to thank Paul and Manik for a very interesting discussion. I want to point out if there's any other questions that you have for Paul or Manik, you can do so within the platform. You can do a live chat with them. But let's take a short 5-minute break so we can transition over to the next session. The next one on track 2 is on award management, keeping to the same theme. Revisiting social processes and future directions for the award management module. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Manik. And we'll hopefully see everyone soon in the next session.
Thank you.
Thank you.